In Project 2, Task 2, we're building on what you undertook in Task 1, where you identified some topics that you could undertake some training for and put together some training or learning plans for. In this task, what we're doing is delving a little bit deeper into the training packages, qualifications and units of competency related to those topics. So you're required to find a training package and a unit of competency related to your topic. In this task, we're going to go into training.gov.au and actually really get in and analyse and interpret some of the information that's contained within those training packages, qualifications and units of competency that you discussed. So let's go through the question or task requirements here. You're required to analyse the requirements of 2 units of competency from the previous task in a bit more detail. The units you select may be from different qualifications and training packages and for different target groups. It is important that you select units that you could deliver content from, as these will form the basis for future projects, including developing work-based learning plans, lesson plans and learning activities to support your sessions. So the first thing that you need to do is to go onto training.gov.au and you need to search up that training package that you have identified. In the table that's provided here, you'll just need to take information directly from training.gov with relation to the training package, qualification and unit of competency. So the first thing we do is put in the training package code and title, the version number it's at and its release date. Then from there we're going to delve into that training package and have a look at the qualification. In this case we're putting in the qualification code and title, what industry it relates to. Now sometimes that's explicit in the actual training package and qualification. And in some cases it's not, it might be a bit more implicit, so it's not as obvious. Things like WHS, if you think about it, what industry does it relate to? It actually relates to all industries. So just have a look at your particular training package qualification and have a look at and see what kind of industry it does specifically relate to. Who's the target group? That is usually outlined at the very beginning of the qualification. It'll talk about what the qualification is about and who it's intended for. So you've just got to go through and have a read of that descriptor right at the very beginning of the qualification itself. The packaging rules, they can be copy and pasted. And if there are any prerequisites or any entry requirements. Again, you'll find all of this on training.gov. Most of this is really about you just showing that you have gone into training.gov and you are analysing and interpreting the information that's in there. Some of it you can copy and paste. Some of it I highly recommend that you just summarise in your own words. Okay, the total number of units, how many core units or mandatory units? Some qualifications still call them mandatory units, some call them core units. And then how many elective units are required. Then you're required to state the unit code and title of each of the core or mandatory units. So you could copy and paste that over. From there, you're required to select the most effective units, elective units that you think would be appropriate for the staff in your case study. So in this case, you've put together a bit of a case study of who you'd be delivering this to. So you have to think about what kind of elective units would be most appropriate based on your own case study. You'll also notice that you're required to put a justification there also for each of those. So make sure that you do add that justification in. So if you're putting a customer service unit, just put a dash next to the code and title of that unit and state why that customer service unit's been selected or why this WHS unit has been selected or whatever the case. Just a couple of little notes after each one. It doesn't have to be a long justification. Your consultation, who would you consult with back in your workplace about any customization that you're actually going to put together? You might talk to trainers, you might talk to specialists or technical experts within your workplace. You might even just talk to your management team about some of the challenges that the team are facing out on the workshop floor or out in the workplace to identify which units would be best met by their needs. The knowledge, skills and experience of employees, if they were enrolling in this course, what kind of knowledge, skills, experience would they need? Are there any specific LLN requirements that would need to be met? Are there any time commitments or work commitments? Does rostering need to know so that shift allocations occur effectively? I often find that people don't put enough of this kind of thought into place when they're putting together a learning program for employees, because we need to support them. It's great to put people into a course, but we also as employers need to support them to achieve those outcomes. And then for analysing the unit of competency, the unit code and title of one of those units that most matches one of those topics that you think you might be presenting in one of the future courses, future sessions in this particular cluster. Who the target group would be, how you're going to meet the training needs, and then from there, what sort of skills must the learner demonstrate? In other words, what sort of things would they have to do? What kind of knowledge would need to be undertaken for that? And you can see there's a little bit of a hint there. It does say to you, refer to evidence and performance evidence and the foundation skills. You'll find some really good references in there, and refer to the knowledge evidence with regards to the knowledge heading. And when you go in and you have a look at those aspects, you can actually see all the things that they would need to know. Therefore, what kinds of theory aspects would need to come into the session. The assessment conditions, you can go through and summarise them in your own words. This is where, at this point in time, the information in training.gov kind of stops, and it's actually up to you to think about, from a workplace perspective, how this would best come together. Like, what support materials would you need to actually deliver this session to a group of your workers back in the workplace? Are there any policies, procedures, documentations? Would you need PowerPoints? Would you need a learner guide? What kind of support materials are actually available within the workplace, and what sort of support materials are available, perhaps external to the workplace as well? That may mean that you might need to do a little bit of research online too. There are a lot of providers out there that put together or publish a range of different training materials for different units or mapped to units of competency that both us as RTOs and yourself as private enterprise organisations also may find useful. How do you check to make sure that they're suitable, and how do you make sure that they're adapted or customised to meet the needs of the learners that you're actually got in your groups? And that's your responsibility. It's all great that you can buy some fabulous resources in, but those resources are only as good as how we link them to the needs of the clients that are actually in the groups or the organisations that are actually booking the courses. So there is a responsibility once you purchase these kinds of materials to make sure that they are suitable and can be customised effectively as well. The next thing is to have a look at some qualification skill sets and units of competency, and again, how do you make sure that they're the most suitable, particularly when you're looking at skill sets. Some skill sets are put together and they're really quite suitable for a range of different organisations, and some have some very definite limitations. So again, how would you analyse that? Who would you consult with? And pull it apart with somebody who actually understands those skill sets, the needs of the organisation, the needs of the participants that are attending the training, to make sure that those linkages are actually there and what we're deciding to put people into is actually going to meet the needs of all parties involved. And what sort of support materials, again, would you need to help you in the development and also the rolling out of any kind of learning or assessment that you're going to undertake. So you'll see that you need to do that twice. So there's a #1, so that's your example number 1. #2 will be a different unit of competency, qualification and training package that you're going to analyse. So I hope that's helped with your submission for Project 2, Task 2 for this particular cluster.